Well, I don't know if you can see it from there, but I've laid in some higher values of the reds in here just to try to bring it forward. It's a start. It may stay as it is, it may not, I don't know. But I wanted to establish this a little more securely. It doesn't look so much like just one level of red. You know, there are some different values. I've added a little bit of yellow ochre to the cad red, and even a little bit of cad yellow pale and a bit of white in places, just to give this a little bit more interest. That's good for now. Then I've begun to lay in some yellow ochre and raw umber and white to aid in establishing that this is just slightly over the hill. And just to give a visual feel as to where I'm going to go with this. I know that in the last video I'd mentioned that I would probably be laying in a little bit of yellow ochre, maybe with a bit of raw umber to start with, at the very top where the grass meets with the red wall. And then I would almost immediately be going to yellow ochre and then cad yellow pale and yellow ochre. I lied once again. So now that I've laid it in there, I'm really going to be sticking with raw umber and yellow ochre here and on the top of this hillside, probably in general from here up. I'll be staying with those colors to start with. I'll intersperse brush strokes with varying colors, but that's not the important thing. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that I want to keep my values low enough and build them up as the painting progresses. So I'm going to just stick with yellow ochre, raw umber, and white for these areas. Not here. This is a trail, obviously. That's a different story. And once I have all of my sort of foreground golds in place, golden colors that are not in the shade, that's when I will make the decision as to where to mix yellow ochre and cad yellow pale, which, as I've mentioned before, really amounts to a Naples yellow. For the purposes of this painting, it will approximate a Naples yellow. If you were to take Naples yellow and add a bit of white, that's kind of similar to yellow ochre, cad yellow pale, and white. That is only going to be reserved for some highlights here and there. Otherwise, I'll end up going too high in value too quickly. It's a mistake I make very often. Don't want to keep doing it. Okay, that's what I'll play with. We'll talk to you soon. Well, we'll carry on here. Okay, I wanted to open this up a little bit, this trail going into the cabin, to help lead the eye into it, or the shed rather. And what have I got here of value? It's a little high. I don't mind if there are a few shots of sunlight catching this hill, but I don't want them to be there just yet. So I'm not adding white. I'm just going straight cobalt blue and some yellow ochre. And I think I would like this to appear, this is against the shed. I would like this to appear in front of the shed, as though there is some sort of flat ground behind this little grassy knoll. So let's just do that. See, I've already screwed that up. I've got such a tidy situation going on there that I need to be a bit careful as to how I apply the paint. That's okay. I screw up so much, I'm an expert at fixing screw-ups. Sorry, don't mean to brag. It's just I have practice. Okay, and I may even actually bring more of the yellow ochre light back here. It would fit okay because we have this sunlight from here on that way hitting the fence. So either way, it's okay the way it is, or I can add a little yellow ochre in there to brighten it up. But for the moment, we'll just leave it like that. Here, you know what? I've got my cheat brush handy. I can just simply, as long as it's not loaded up with too much pigment, and it's not too splayed, the brush is still in good enough shape that I can use it with some degree of accuracy. Yeah, okay, it's getting there, it's dying. Okay. Fixed my problem. When I'm doing this kind of thing, I usually do keep a separate brush handy. Because I know I'm going to screw up. I just am. It's inevitable. Now, there's something that I'm going to try to do. I usually try to do it. It's going to be important in this one because there's so much area. This grass is further away from us, and typically dead grass, unless it's a field of wheat or something, it lays flat pretty quickly, pretty easily. So that being, you know, for example, say 40 yards away, you know, your eye will perceive it as laying quite flat. As we get closer with the grassy field, as well as with this trail leading into the barn or into the shed, we'll need to use a few more vertical strokes, give it more texture. If it all lays flat, it'll become quite boring and won't have very much strength. You know, for the moment, I'm using this brush, which is, yeah, number 8, I think. Yeah, I think so. Because I need some accuracy, you know, carving it around these shapes. As I get closer, I'm going to hop up to this one, which is a fairly worn brush, but that's okay too. I don't have to be so fussy. Oh, sorry, the last one, this one was a 6, this one was an 8. So, you know, kind of the next step up in size. And then I'll begin to be a little more bold again. You know, this had to be very tidy. This could be bold. This is your focal area, your points of interest, sort of your strongest. What do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Dynamics, your strongest dynamics, your strongest drama. That's what I'm looking for. The stuff that that certain folks like in daytime television are used to. Oh, reality shows deal with that now. Anyway, this is my little reality show. So then, you know, that's why the dark and light adjacencies need to be very important. As we come down here, we can become a little more bold with our strokes, and not quite so gentle and serene looking. Okay, I think I'm repeating myself. So I guess while we're at it, you know, I've laid in a few indexing strokes here to let me know my shape, to sort of give me a little confidence when I go into it to apply more paint. I'm a little bothered by the shape of the path that I had sitting here. I knew that I wanted it to extend, not just come around like that. That's just a bad idea. I wanted it I wanted the shadowy part of something to extend into beyond the edge of this shed. You know, it had to go further this way. So I did that, and you know, I'm kind of happy with with the idea of doing that. But I think what I would like to do is, now that I'm into it, let's just continue with that idea and shape it a little more firmly. Remember, I can go lighter on this yet, and I probably will. Use higher values, rather. And, okay, it's still a bit light. But I would like to indicate something else here. I would like to show, and I'm still using the small brush because the design of things is still quite important. Okay, now I'm dipping into the turpentine. Now I'm going back to the wash-in. Just even momentarily. And there are areas of this, you know, what I'm doing right now, I won't have to paint over it because I'm already washing over the washover, so it's not an issue. But I like this, you know, the notion of this trail. Okay, there's a bit of a cut there. Good, you know. It extends beyond the edge of the shed. Because I think if this trail had just come out here and come down, it would almost be like, well, here's a painting, and here's a separate painting. You know, we need to not just have a gateway between the two forms. We need to unite them, and we've united them with some sunlight here. Now let's do that with some shadow. Okay, blithering, blithering, blithering. So I know I put out a video, it's probably a couple of years ago already, where I warned people against, you know, trusting videos that say how to do this, how to do that, because often they're pretty inept. Anyway, the last video that I put up, I think was how to paint a red barn. It's kind of a silly title, but at the same time, sort of a social experiment, or maybe just to see what the algorithm does with it. I want to see if it brings in any outside viewers. I love to have more viewers, more subscribers, of course, more likes, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's not a path that I'll follow, you know, using titles like that. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Another thing, I pay a lot of money to have my hair cut like this. A lot of money. And it's not at all ever because I'm constantly running my hands through my hair for hours and hours a day while I'm painting and thinking. It's not because of that. It's because I paid so much money to have this beautiful, beautiful, fashionable hairdo. Okay, now that I got that out of the way. Alright. I'm going to leave this area for now, the painting of the grass. We're coming close. We're coming closer. I mean, I was very happy with, in general, with how I've structured the foreground. But now that we're getting into it, I need to, what would you say, hone in on some of the details. Not that it's going to be that detailed itself, but it's really important. You know, these lines that come in the foreground and division of space is going to become quite important. So as you can see, I've already been playing a little bit here and there. And I've just grabbed a little, what is this? It's almost at the end of its life. It's a number 4 brush. And I've mixed up some raw umber and ultramarine blue. And I'm just kind of strengthening certain areas and putting in lines that suggest things as I go. I sort of see it as giving myself more options as to where I can place things. And as I go into it some more, I will be able to remove these lines. Or use them. But that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm not worrying. I'm being kind of rough. I'm not worrying too much about the brush. This is all going to be in shadow, or most of it anyway. But I still feel that we need to have some strong bits of design. Just to help, well, for me I do, just to help aid in my decisions as we move forward. And I do mean forward, or no, maybe it's backward. Forward towards us. And as you can see, the paint that I'm putting in here now is quite a bit darker than my wash-in was originally. But in doing this, I can kind of leave myself clues all over the place. And once this dries up, this mixture of paint and turpentine, the second wash-in, so to speak, I can pick and choose which lines I use and which I don't. So, another visual aid I'd like to leave myself. I didn't start out thinking this way, but or thinking of this, but this whole hillside really is dropping off. Maybe there's a meadow off on the right. There's a bit of a hillock here, and it drops over a ridge down on the other side. Well, I knew that to begin earlier on, but I'm really quite liking how this is going. So I think, I just try to get a little bit tidier, or a little more, not tidier, but more direct as far as which lines I want to use and which I don't. This path, I know it's not a paved road, and I know this area may have been long since abandoned, but I still like to give it quite a bit of strength. It can only help. Yeah, I don't know, it's steering us in the right direction, I think, anyway. You see these areas like this. Yeah, they're kind of messy. That's fine. I'm painting over them. I'll lay in, okay, I'll lay in a little bit more up on the little sort of hillock or knoll. Okay, I know that I don't want this area to be important. And the general shape of this one will be quite important. You know, I mean, not to say that this is unimportant, but to say that it's less important. It's really not going to be catching much light at all. So I'll probably darken that even more than how I have it at the moment. But we'll see. All right, and you know, it's kind of nice because if you just mix a little bit of paint with some turpentine, you are kind of feels like you're playing again, and you're not at risk of doing any major damage. You know, this, I'm not touching any of this stuff. I'm just honing in on the design of the foreground. And trying to put some interesting shapes in places. Okay, I think we'll just leave it at that for the moment. I know it looks like a bowl of spaghetti, but there is reason behind that madness. Talk to you soon.